Firstly, we know that our heads of state and government have decided that we should track poverty and eliminate poverty altogether, starting from the Millennium Development Goals and as of now in the post-2015 development agenda in the form of the Sustainable Development Goals. So critically, the MPI is a very important cog in dealing with issues of eliminating poverty, because we are able to track nations all over the world, and we'll have seen what progress we have made in the global MPI. And nations specifically are also tracking their intra-national developments in relation to eradicating poverty. So the MPI is a very important function in relation to the SDGs. It goes beyond South Africa. South Africa certainly has hosted the 6th meeting of the MPPN network. And of course, different countries have hosted. And we have seen and listened to different input from different regions of the world. But specifically, the role of the network is to share experiences, to bring together policymakers, experts, and those that deal with measurements, like myself as statisticians, both in official practice as well as from the academia, and to look at ways in which we can refine this tool, the MPI, for measurement and in dealing with matters of poverty. So if you ask me, I would say we want more of these kinds of meetings. We want to share more experiences, because the world will be a better place when the network is there. Firstly, the MPI has been there for quite some time, coming out of the work that was done by Alkira and Foster. And certainly South Africa adopted that tool. But we have a different approach. We don't look at only the MPI. We have what we call the South African Multidimensional Poverty Index, the SAMPI. And the SAMPI, unlike the traditional MPI that looks at 10 dimensions, we have 11 dimensions. We look at the economy and we add employment, because we have picked up that all over time, from our census 2001, our census 2011, as well as our large-scale sample survey 2016, we have picked up that employment is the biggest contributor to, and lack of employment particularly, or unemployment, is the biggest contributor to poverty. So we decided to bring this economic aspect of employment, and that's what makes our 11 dimensions in dealing with the MPI. But one of the things is that we are still using the money-metric measure of poverty, the lower bound poverty line, in terms of measuring our poverty, and that's what we are tracking in our National Development Plan, which of course you would expect coming out of the World Bank, IMF, $1, $2 a day. But it's not enough. Government is putting a lot of work in terms of alleviating poverty in South Africa. Your fee-free schools, dealing with feeding schemes at schools, free basic services in the form of water and electricity for indigent families and households, and of course looking at issues that relate to free medical care. And now when you look at that, you cannot pick that up, from the side of the households when you are measuring the money-metric one. So you need to pick that from the multidimensional side. It is not yet a policy position for South Africa. We don't define the what as statisticians. The what is defined by policymakers. We only define the how to measure. So once policymakers have adopted the MPI as a way to measure, we'll certainly do it, because we're already doing it. And government is already putting a lot of programs to alleviate poverty. For us as South Africa, it doesn't matter whether we are the first or the second or the third. The biggest issue is, what is it that we are doing in terms of contributing to humanity? And when you look at the MPPN network, which looks at issues of dealing with eradicating poverty all over the world, we feel we have been honored by being nominated by other countries to come up and host this meeting, and not only host it, but deal with issues where we had the highest congregation of African countries. We have seen African countries attending in different parts of the world, but I think a combination of statisticians and policymakers, it was the highest of the form. So we think we have made our contribution. But that's not enough. The biggest challenge is how do we take this agenda of fighting poverty to other fora. We have already taken it to the United Nations. As you know, that we have always contributed to side events during the United Nations General Assembly. And not only that, we have had discussions in the United Nations Statistics Commission. But now it's time that we take it to the World Economic Forum, where policymakers, technicians and people who deal with measurement, as well as financiers, meet in one place and take this matter forward. In that way, together with other efforts that we are putting, we will one day triumph against poverty.